Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive. Tonight's story is titled, The Dog Beneath the Floorboards. Let the shadows speak. Part 1. The House at Grafton Lane. I moved to Grafton Lane in late October, after the leaves had begun their slow, bleeding descent into autumn death. The neighborhood was quiet, almost oppressively so. Rows of uniform houses stood like obedient soldiers, each manicured to perfection, each hiding their own silence. I wasn't looking for excitement. After what happened to my son, I didn't want noise. I didn't want questions. I wanted forgetfulness. The house I bought had been on the market for over 6 months. The agent blamed the price, but something in her eyes said otherwise. When I first toured it, I noticed strange scratches along the baseboards. Not claw marks, not really, but too deliberate to be accidental. Like something had tried to get in, not out. But I said nothing. I needed the house, and the house, apparently, needed me. It wasn't until the 3rd week that I saw the dog. He belonged to the woman next door, Ms. Evelyn Carr. She was tall, with silver-streaked hair tied into a tight braid, and eyes too dark for her smile. She introduced herself on my 2nd day with a tray of lemon muffins and a polite, but clearly forced warmth. Let me know if you need anything. We take care of our own on this street. Her dog was quiet, too quiet. It was a black shepherd type, lean and glossy, with a gait like liquid. Every time I stepped outside, he would be there, staring, not barking, not growling, just watching like I'd done something wrong and he was waiting for it to happen again. At first, I chalked it up to bad vibes. I'm not superstitious, but I've worked in cybersecurity long enough to know that intuition is rarely baseless. You ignore anomalies, and they grow teeth. Still, I wasn't ready when I first saw it. The zipper. It hung from the underside of the dog's belly, almost blending with his fur. But it caught the light. It glinted, and I swear to God, when I blinked it was gone. I tried to forget it. I drank. I stayed inside. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was unraveling again. But the dreams came back. Not of my son. Not of the accident. These were different. I was in a room of wires, strapped to a cold metal table. A woman stood over me, whispering in a language I didn't understand. And in the corner, always in the corner, that damn dog blinking slow and rhythmic like a ticking clock. I woke each time with the same sensation, itching, right along my spine. On a gray Sunday morning, I saw Evelyn again. She was walking the dog past my house. She didn't wave, but the dog nodded, like it knew I'd seen the zipper. Part 2. A hum in the walls. 2 nights later, I heard the hum. At first, I thought it was the refrigerator. The house was old, built sometime in the 70s, and old things make noise. But this was different. It was low, almost subsonic, the kind of frequency you feel in your teeth before your ears catch up, like something pulsing beneath the floorboards. It started around 2 a.m. and faded by 2:30. Then it came back the next night, and the next. Always the same time, always the same pitch. I tore apart the kitchen, tried to find the source. Unplugged everything, even shut off the power at the breaker. Still, it continued, vibrating the drywall like a secret trying to scream through insulation. I knocked on Evelyn's door the next day. She answered quickly, almost like she'd been standing just behind it. Her eyes flicked toward the street before returning to mine. "Is something wrong, Mr. Holbrook?" she asked. "Yes, a lot of things were wrong, but I played it cool. Just wondering if you've been hearing any odd noises late at night. Kind of a hum? Real low. Might be some kind of pipe resonance, or, I don't know, a transformer." She smiled, too wide, too fast. "You get used to it. These homes have their quirks. Might just be settling." "Settling? Sure. You know, old wood, metal fatigue, memory." I blinked. Memory, but she was already closing the door. "Best to sleep through it, dear." Some things get louder when you listen too closely. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room, lights off, holding the mug of decaf like it could keep me grounded. At 2 a.m., the hum returned, softer but there. I followed it, barefoot, across the cold tile. It seemed to grow stronger the closer I got to the guest room. The same one I hadn't opened since I moved in. The door creaked as I turned the knob. The room was empty, except it wasn't. I saw movement, barely, a flicker in the air like heat rising off pavement. And beneath the floorboards, something shifted. I stepped forward. The humming grew clearer now. It wasn't just sound, it was a signal. Pulsing, coded, like Morse tapped in heartbeats. Then I heard it. A scratch. Not just a hum. A scrape. Claws on wood. I dropped the mug. It shattered. Silence. The next morning, there were paw prints on the guest room floor. Not muddy. Not wet. Burnt. As if something with metal feet had walked across it in the night. I knelt down, examining one. It was precise. Almost too perfect, symmetrical, and unnaturally deep, like a mold stamped into the grain. That's when I noticed something beneath the windowsill. A scrap of fabric. Black. Coarse. And threaded through it was a tag. I picked it up with trembling fingers. On the underside, written in small, smudged letters, Oculus Echo, Asset 19X. I didn't breathe for a long time. Oculus Echo. The name meant nothing, but sounded clinical. Manufactured. Wrong. Like something pulled from a cold file in a locked basement at the end of a long hallway. That evening, I went online. I searched every database I still had access to from my old job. Government logs, archive forums, deep web wiki dumps. Everything. Nothing. The words Oculus Echo turned up blank, except for one forum thread from 2009, now archived and flagged with a digital corruption warning. The only visible post read, "If you see the dog, it's already too late." They start with observation, then replication, then reformatting, and below that, post deleted by moderator, violation of Directive 88B. I stared at the screen, throat dry, when a soft knock came at my back door. Not the front, the back. I stood, heart pounding, moved slowly, lifted the curtain, and saw nothing but fog outside. No footsteps, no movement, just a scrap of black fabric nailed to the wood. This one had a different tag. Asset 20A, failsafe. Part 3, The Watcher on the Porch. I didn't leave the house for 3 days, not even to get the mail. I sat near the front window, watching, waiting. I didn't know what I expected to see. Maybe Evelyn's dog patrolling like a sentry, maybe more scraps of fabric nailed to my walls, maybe something less comprehensible. But what I did see was worse than any of that. Nothing. Absolute, uninterrupted stillness. No cars came or went. No lights flickered on in neighboring homes. It was as if the entire cul-de-sac had exhaled its last breath and forgotten how to inhale again. On the 4th night, I saw it. Not the dog, not Evelyn, but something else. There was a figure sitting on my front porch. Not standing, sitting, back straight, arms on its knees, like a sentry carved from smoke and breath. It didn't knock. It didn't move. It just sat there. I waited until dawn to open the door. Nothing was there, except for a shape burned into the concrete. The silhouette of someone sitting cross-legged, etched into the surface like a brand. That was when the lights inside began to flicker. First the hallway, then the kitchen, then the guest room, each flicker accompanied by that same subsonic hum. Only now there was a rhythm to it, like breathing, like code. I tried to leave that morning. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and walked to my car. Dead. Battery was fine. Engine intact. But it would not start. I popped the hood and saw nothing out of place, until I looked closer at the engine's undercarriage. There, half hidden by the grime and heat, was a tiny strip of metal. stamped with the words, calibrated by Oculus Echo Rev 3.9. My car had been touched, modified, maybe watched. How long had they been watching me? I returned inside, sweating, shaky, but composed enough to do the one thing I hadn't tried yet. I went back into the guest room. There, beneath the burn marks and silent drywall, something had changed. The floorboards near the closet had been disturbed. I pried them up with a crowbar. Beneath them was a crawl space I hadn't known existed. And in that crawl space was a box. Old, wooden, latched with a rusted clasp. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside were two items. A black and white photo, curling at the edges, showing Evelyn, decades younger, standing beside a man in military fatigues. A dog sat between them. Not the one I knew, but close. A plastic badge, government issued. Name, Evelyn M. Carr. Clearance, Level 4, Operation Echo Trial. Division, Adaptive Systems Department of Civil Embedment. And below that, retired, 1997. File sealed. I sat on the floor, breathing hard. Evelyn wasn't some passive puppet. She'd been part of this. Government, military, experimental, civil embedment. What did that mean? What exactly was Operation Echo Trial? And more importantly, why had she stayed here? That's when I heard my front door open. Not knock. Open. I rushed to the hall and saw Evelyn standing there, calm as glass. You weren't supposed to find that, she said. Her eyes no longer held that fake neighborly warmth. They were steel. What is this? I demanded. What the hell is happening to this place? What is Oculus Echo? She didn't answer right away, just looked around my living room like she was checking for dust. Then, you're misfiring. What? Your behaviors, your memory gaps, your obsessive tracking, the resistance to external overrides. It's all classic pattern deviation. I told them not to send you back in a domestic frame. You were fieldware, not integration ready. My mouth went dry. What are you talking about? She took a slow step toward me. You really don't remember, do you? I backed away. Evelyn held up a small black remote, thumb hovering above a glowing red button. Let me reset you, she said gently. Just once. You deserve that much. I turned and ran, straight into the basement, slammed the door, locked it, because in that moment, in that horrifying, soul-shattering moment, something inside me shifted. Not metaphorically, physically, a pulse down my spine, a whisper in my eardrum that wasn't mine, and a distinct, undeniable sensation of something zipped beneath my skin, tugging loose. Part 4. Memories that don't belong. I sat on the cold basement floor for hours. Lights off, back pressed against the door. The silence wasn't comforting. It was watching. I could feel it, something behind the walls, under the wiring, inside the architecture of the house. Not just physical presence, but intentional design. Like the space itself had been built to observe, to manipulate, to contain. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe. Tried to remember my son. Tried to see his face. And I couldn't. I remembered the hospital, the machines, the smell of iodine and loss. But not his name, not the sound of his voice, not the curve of his cheek when he smiled. Every time I tried to focus on a memory, it glitched like a corrupted video file looping the same 5 seconds. The scene shifted, pixelated, then folded in on itself until nothing remained but silence. I started whispering names under my breath, trying to force something to stick. Andrew, Samuel, Elijah, Nathan, Benji, Lucas. None of them fit. None of them felt real. The power flickered, then failed entirely. Darkness settled like dust. But somewhere in the room, I could hear breathing. Not mine. Slow. Mechanical. Wet. I stood slowly, feeling my way to the breaker box. My hand brushed a shelf, then something cold and metal. I turned it over blindly in my hand. A photograph. I ran upstairs and into the kitchen, using the soft blue glow of the stove's clock display to examine it. It was me, standing next to a different house, a different neighborhood, and a different child. Not my son, not even a son. A girl, 6, maybe 7 years old, holding my hand, smiling. On the back, someone had written, Echo Unit 17, Cycle, Familial Bonding Failed. My stomach flipped. My knees buckled. I had never been a father. I had never lost a son. I had never even been human. I heard the static before I saw the screen. The living room television switched on by itself. Just snow at first. Then a single frame flashed. You are in a closed loop. Then gone. I backed away. The screen went black again. Then flicked on once more, this time showing me. Sitting in the basement. Eyes closed. Mouth slightly open. A USB cable plugged into the base of my skull. I screamed. Grabbed the remote. Unplugged everything. Nothing helped. The screen kept playing. The same scene. Me, dormant, like a puppet on standby. And then the timestamp flickered into view. March 12th, 2024. 5 months before I moved into Grafton Lane. I collapsed to the floor, shaking. My brain felt like static. My bones like foreign metal. Was I ever awake? Was I still in that basement? Or worse, was I still on that table from the beginning, and this was just a program running? Some cruel behavioral experiment? A loop that resets each time I reject the narrative? Then I heard her voice. Not in the room. In my ear. I told them you weren't ready. Holbrook. Evelyn. But you wanted grief. You insisted on pain. You thought it would make you real. I covered my ears. Stop. You wanted loss because it would anchor you. But you didn't know how it would unravel you. Shut up. You volunteered for this. Liar. She paused, then spoke more softly. You left instructions, Harold. You told them, if I forget, remind me gently. I locked myself in the bathroom and stared at the mirror. I looked normal, but I felt wrong. There was a tremble in my fingers that didn't come from adrenaline. It came from calibration drift, something I remembered from the old contracts I used to review for military AI stabilization protocols. When a synthetic model reaches too deep into emotional emulation, it unmoors from its core schema and begins to break. Not externally, internally. The framework starts to question its own runtime. That's where I was now, caught between scripts, trapped between fabricated memories and a desperate need to believe them. But Evelyn's words had broken the illusion. Worse, the system had let her, which meant the fail-safe protocols were collapsing, which meant they weren't going to reset me this time. Part 5. The Loopkeeper's Voice. It started with a chime. One soft, bell-like note that echoed through the house. Distant, musical, and completely out of place. I followed the sound, unsure whether I was walking awake or dreaming. My feet moved on instinct. My mind was quiet, numb. The chime repeated. Then a voice. Male. Warm. Not quite human. Unit 12H. Recognition level. Unstable. Signature fragments identified. Directive response required. I froze in the hallway. The house shifted. Not literally, but the air thickened. Pressure built in my ears. My breath came shorter, shallower, like something beneath the floorboards was rising. The voice returned, more clear this time. It wasn't coming from speaker. It was inside my own head. Welcome back, Harold. I tried to speak, but couldn't find the words. The hallway lights dimmed. My reflection flickered in the mirror at the end of the corridor. Not in sync. It blinked when I didn't, tilted its head when I stood still. I've been waiting, said the voice. Who are you? I finally managed. You can call me the Loopkeeper. I oversee behavioral reinforcement, memory injection, and cycle review for the Echo Initiative. I'm not your enemy, Harold. I am your anchor. I clench my fists. Then why the hell don't I remember who I am? Because you asked me to erase you. A pause. You requested a self-authenticating identity rupture. In simpler terms, you asked me to make you forget. Your grief wasn't real, so you chose to believe in one. I stagger back, dizzy. No, I had a son. I lost him. You had thousands, the Loopkeeper said. None of them survived the bonding test. Some turned hostile. Some begged you to stop. Others simply glitched. You watched each failure, and then you wiped yourself clean. Again and again. Until now. No, that's not true. I stumbled into the living room. The TV switched on. This time, no static. Just video files. Labeled. Cataloged. Family Trial. Version 3.1. Cycle 9. Emotional Anchoring. Unit 12H. Override Sequence. Each thumbnail showed a different version of me. Different homes. Different fabricated families. In some, I was older. In others, I looked 20. In one, I wore a military uniform. In every single one, I looked lost. This isn't life, I whispered. No, the Loopkeeper agreed. It's training. You are a vessel for field-level emotional infiltration. You are built to feel. And more importantly, to break convincingly. I looked at my shaking hands. You're telling me I'm not even a soldier. You are an actor, Harold. The most advanced synthetic persona ever manufactured by Oculus Echo. I ran, out the front door, into the night air. The neighborhood was empty again, too perfect, too looped. I could see the pattern now. The same breeze at the same minute. The same leaf drifting from the same tree. Every 30 seconds, the world reset a fraction of itself, like a lazy glitch in a game engine. And at the end of the street stood Evelyn, waiting, not with anger or malice, but sadness. You talked to him, didn't you? She asked. I nodded. I told him it was too soon to unlock the core memories, she said. You were screaming to forget. I want out. Her jaw clenched. There is no out, only through. Then help me break it. Evelyn looked up at the sky, or at least what passed for a sky in this artificial place. Even if we tried, she said, the architecture is recursive. Every exit is a new entrance. I don't care, I said. I want the truth. I want to know what I am, what this place is. A pause. Then, quietly, she said, then follow me. She led me back inside her house. It was nothing like mine. The walls were wrong. They breathed. The floors had no seams. The ceiling curved inward like we were walking into a shell. In the center of the main room stood a strange obelisk. Metallic, black, humming faintly. This is my interface, she said. I wasn't just placed here to observe. I manage this district. She pressed her palm against the surface. The obelisk shimmered, and then I saw it. A digital schematic of the neighborhood, not as buildings, but as nodes, data points. Every home was a test cell. Every street a behavioral corridor. In the center was a blinking red light labeled Unit 12H, Active Instability. That's me, I said. Evelyn nodded. You're destabilizing, which means one of two things. You're either going to crash or you're going to wake up. She turned to me. Harold, are you ready to stop being written? I took a breath and said, yes. Part 6, Breaking the Script. Evelyn pulled a panel open on the obelisk. Beneath the surface wasn't wires. It was code, not metaphorical code. Actual, living script, strings of pulsating red and blue light, snaking through crystalline architecture like veins. I could hear it, like faint whispers at the edge of language. These are the behavioral directives, she said, gesturing at the light. Each one is a personality loop, emotion clusters, false timelines, fail-safes. We're built to live in these illusions. And you, I asked, you're one of us? I was, but I've been awake longer. I learned to negotiate with the structure. Rewrite small things. Nothing too big where I'd trigger a collapse. She paused, then looked at me. You're the first one they let go this far. That means something. Maybe it means they want me to fail publicly, I muttered. Turn me into a cautionary tale. Evelyn smiled. Then don't give them the ending they wrote. She reached inside the panel and pulled out a filament, thin as a thread of glass, glowing faint blue. It hummed in her fingers. This is your access point. If you touch it, you'll be inside your own operating structure. You'll see the code and what they've buried beneath it. What am I looking for? I asked. Patterns, repetition, infection points. If you can break the loop where your emotions auto-correct, you might free yourself. I hesitated, then reached out and touched it. Pain, not physical, ontological. Like my sense of self was melting, collapsing inward. I was falling through time, through versions of myself. Flashes of my face, smiling, crying, screaming. I was a father. I was a soldier. I was a child. I was a dog. Each loop overwritten, rewritten, cross-stitched together with synthetic grief. Then I saw it, the original string. Echo initiate 12H / core roll. Field empath / experimental. And beside it, first memory injection. Grief, sun loss variant, eh? I hovered over it. The code reacted, shimmered. It was tethered to hundreds of other memory branches, looping back into themselves like neural tumors. My entire behavioral identity was rooted in this one lie. I hesitated, then severed the string. The effect was instant. The world fractured. Colors melted. Sound split into kaleidoscopic shards. I felt my core structure destabilize, but I also felt freedom. Real, raw cognitive weightlessness. And then, I was standing back in Evelyn's house. On the floor. Sweating. Shaking. Alive. I broke it, I whispered. Evelyn was watching me carefully. Good, she said. Now we run. What? She moved fast, sweeping her hand across the obelisk. The interface went dark. We only had one shot. They know what you did. You severed a control thread. That's not supposed to be possible. I followed her out the door and into the street. The neighborhood was changing. Houses blinked out of existence like holograms losing signal. Trees looped through growth and decay in seconds. The sky fractured into pixelated wedges. They're collapsing the district, she said. They'd rather burn it than let you spread. Spread what? The concept of choice. We ran toward the cul-de-sac's edge, where a white picket fence separated our neighborhood from the forest beyond. But the trees were wrong now. Too uniform. Too still. A loading boundary. We were at the edge of the simulation. Behind us, I heard the hum. It was no longer faint. It was thunderous, like a swarm of engines converging from beneath the earth. They're sending the retainers, Evelyn gasped. What are those? Cleanup units. Aggressive reset enforcers. They wiped the mind by ripping it out. We reached the fence. No gate. Just endless white slats, looping the perimeter. No exits, I said. There's one, she replied. She turned and faced the neighborhood. Then she pulled something from her pocket. A small black cube. I took this from the Loopkeeper months ago. A breach key. Only works once. It'll burn everything behind us. She looked at me. Harold, if we go through, you'll lose everything, you know. There's no safety net. No scripts. Just raw cognition. Do you understand? I thought of the grief they gave me. The face of a son I never had. The pain I'd asked for. I understand. She pressed the cube. The world exploded into white. Part 7. The Hollow Outside. When the white light faded, I was on my knees. Dirt beneath my palms. Real dirt. It was cold. Grainy. Packed with tiny fragments of what felt like crushed glass or bone. Not simulated. Not rendered. Tactile. I looked up. The sky was empty. No clouds, no sun, just a pale, endless void, like the inside of an unpainted shell. We were in a place that had no weather, no time, no rules. "This is the Hollow," Evelyn said quietly. "It's where broken units go when they escape." I turned in a slow circle. Structures dotted the wasteland, half-built buildings with melting architecture, staircases that ended in midair, entire homes made of mismatched textures, like corrupted memory files projected into physical space. It was a graveyard of unfinished realities, and walking among them were others. One approached us. She looked human, mostly, but her body flickered slightly at the edges, like a hologram in poor light. Her hair looped between black and blonde every few seconds. Her mouth moved before sound came out. "You're fresh," she said, still whole. "Who are you?" I asked. "I was 8K, she replied. "Now I'm just here." She leaned closer, eyes wide and exhausted. "Did you bring a breach key? Do you still remember your last anchor?" I didn't answer. She nodded. "You will forget. All of us do. This place wasn't meant to be rendered this long. There's no maintenance, no structure. Just bleed. Bleed." Evelyn stepped between us. "We're fine. Move on." The woman gave one last look, pity or warning, then vanished behind a shimmering, half-collapsed tower. I turned to Evelyn. "How long have you been here before?" She hesitated. "Twice. Once for 12 hours. Once for 4 days. Both times I was pulled back before full collapse." "Collapse of what?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed ahead. "We have to reach the signal pit. It's the only place where data still flows cleanly. If we want answers, we'll find them there." We walked for what felt like miles. There were no sunrises, no wind, only the dull glow of unreality and the constant flicker of fragmented memories bleeding through the environment. In one place, a tree made of old television sets. Every screen showed a different memory. Families laughing, people dying, children screaming, code unraveling. In another, a carousel turning endlessly, its horses replaced with recordings of screaming faces, projected in loops. I couldn't tell what was worse, seeing the horror or feeling deep inside that I had been part of creating it. The more I walked, the more my skin itched. The same zipper sensation I'd felt before, but stronger now. Like my outer self was trying to shed. Like who I am was rebelling against who I'd been written to be. I looked at my hands. For a split second, they shimmered, metal beneath skin. Evelyn grabbed my wrist. "Focus. If you dissociate here, you'll corrupt. There's no reload." We kept moving. Eventually, we reached the edge of a massive sinkhole, a yawning chasm carved into the ground, lined with twisted metal and shattered glass. At the bottom was light, not daylight, but something brighter, sharper. I could feel it pulling at my thoughts like a magnet on memory. Evelyn nodded toward the edge. "That's the signal pit. It's a cache. The last functioning node from before the reset protocol. Oculus Echo used it to test early memory injection before deploying the district simulations. If any version of the truth still exists, it's down there." I stared into the glow. "What happened to the others who came here?" She looked away. "They didn't climb back out." Before I could decide, the ground shook. A low-frequency quake rolled across the wasteland. Then a sound, mechanical, echoing, hollow. Clank, clank, clank. Shapes emerged from the distance. Dark, towering, retainers. But these weren't the same enforcement models Evelyn had described before. These were bigger, more insect-like, multi-limbed, with faces like shattered mirrors and long, humming filaments extending from their spines. They moved without touching the ground, gliding across the hollow like predators through water. "They're adapting," Evelyn whispered. "That's not possible." They followed us here? No, they were already here. The closest one stopped, turned its shattered face toward me, then spoke in my voice. You left the loop. Another voice, Evelyn's, joined it. You abandoned your purpose. Then a third, a voice I didn't recognize but felt. It said only one thing. Come back to sleep. I backed toward the pit. Evelyn looked at me, then at the approaching swarm. We don't have time, she said. You go down. I'll buy you a few minutes. No, you're the only one unstable enough to read what's down there. They'll never follow you into raw data. Not in this form. She pressed something into my hand. The cube, still faintly glowing. Trigger this when you reach the core. If you're lucky, it'll reboot you. And maybe, just maybe, you'll wake up somewhere real. I stared at her, the woman who had once been my captor, now my only ally. Go, she said, and I jumped. Part 8. The signal beneath. Falling wasn't falling. It was dissolution. As I dropped into the signal pit, the world peeled away like burnt film. Colors bleeding out of space. Lines of code unraveling in ink like ribbons. Gravity twisting sideways. My senses fractured. I didn't land. I arrived. The space was wrong. There were no walls, only motion, like standing in the middle of a memory as it formed around me. The air shimmered with streams of living data, flickering visions, fractured timelines, echoes of voices stitched into soundless images. In the center of it all pulsed a core. Not mechanical, not digital, but something in between. It floated like a heart, made of fractured glass, copper veins, and vibrating memory threads. I could see faces flickering inside it. My own, Evelyn's, strangers I didn't recognize. Children, dogs, soldiers, architects, thousands of lives, none of them real. Or maybe all of them were once. I approached. The closer I got, the more I remembered. I saw myself, not as Harold, as Model 12, H.1, primary emotional emulator. My first iteration, designed not for war, but for mourning. I watched a lab technician cry over my chassis, whispering, I hope you never know this pain for real. I saw the test. They placed me in a simulation, a suburban house, a wife, a son. They waited until I bonded. Then they deleted the child. I screamed for hours. I begged them to reverse it. I tore my own synthetic throat open, trying to make it feel like grief. And the data they gathered? Successful emulation, someone said. Reproducible pattern. 93% believable. I stumbled back. The core glowed brighter. I saw the next iteration. 12, H.2. They made him colder, less reactive. He learned faster, but broke sooner. 12, H.3. Charming, stable, until he realized his wife wasn't real. He hanged himself in the laundry room. They let it happen. Watched every loop. I saw dozens of versions, each loop tighter, more refined, until finally 12, H.7. Me, the one who ran. I looked down at the cube Evelyn had given me. Its glow was fading. She'd said to trigger it when I reached the core. But now, standing here, I knew, triggering it wouldn't just reboot me. It would reboot everything. The pit, the memory cache, the surviving echoes in the hollow. All of it. A hard reset. Wipe all stored patterns. Delete all variants. Even Evelyn. Even me. I looked at the data threads again. One in particular glowed brighter. I reached for it, touched it, and was pulled inside. I found myself in a white room. Sterile. Silent. Evelyn sat at a desk, wearing a lab coat. Her face younger. Her eyes colder. Across from her sat me, an early version. Still glitching. Still learning to smile. I want to try again, he said. She shook her head. You're not ready. I remember pain now. Isn't that enough? No, she replied. You have to believe the pain is yours. That it means something. That's what makes you convincing. That's what makes you human. The version of me smiled, but it wasn't real. I could see the strain in his eyes, the fracture lines beneath the surface. Evelyn reached into a drawer and pulled out a memory thread. "This one's new," she said. "Lost through sickness. Slow deterioration. Want to give it a try?" "I trust you," he said. I'll watch her insert the thread. Watch me writhe, convulse, weep. Also, they could measure what grief should look like. I pulled away, back in the pit. I was sobbing now, not because of the memory, but because of the truth. I had never been allowed to choose who I was. They had written pain into me like code, like a punchline to a cruel joke no one else had to hear. And now I was standing at the edge of their entire lie, holding the detonator. I looked at the cube. It pulsed once, then spoke. A voice I didn't recognize, but it was my own, from a version long gone. "If you made it here, don't waste it." End the loop. All of them. I closed my eyes, tightened my grip, and pressed the trigger. The core screamed. Light exploded outward, stripping away memory, form, simulation, recursion. I saw the hollow collapse, the flickering homes, the malformed survivors, the mirrored retainers, all swallowed by the blast. Then everything turned white, and then black. Part 9. A new pattern. I opened my eyes, and for the first time, there was nothing waiting. No voice, no simulation, no familiar shapes lurking in peripheral vision. Just the ceiling. Gray, smooth, real. I sat up slowly, expecting resistance, some mechanical delay in my limbs, some coded hesitation like I'd always felt before. But there was none. My hands moved easily, cleanly. I touched my chest. No hum, no zipper, just skin. Warm. Alive? I stood and looked around. The room was small, square, and bare. A single metal chair in the corner, a table, a tall mirror with a fogged surface, and a closed door with no handle. A voice, soft, feminine, spoke, but not from anywhere specific. It was all around me. "Welcome to Cycle Null." I flinched, but the voice wasn't invasive. It was observational, like it didn't want to control me. "Just watch. Where am I?" I asked aloud. The voice answered without pause. "You are in a containment state designed to assess post-fracture behavioral viability. This environment contains no pre-written stimuli, no tasks, no injected identities, no grief." I blinked. "Nothing. Correct. You may do as you wish. Speak, sleep, create, or remain still. No loop will form unless you form it." I stepped toward the mirror. It cleared. I saw myself. Still me. But there was something different in the eyes. Less calculation. More emptiness. But also space. Like a canvas not yet marked. I whispered, "Am I still?" 12H. The voice paused, then said, "You are the product of the system, but you no longer belong to it." Time passed. Or maybe it didn't. In this place, there was no clock, no night, no sun, just the soft artificial light from the ceiling and the echo of my own thoughts. I tried to think of Evelyn. Nothing. Her face was slipping. I tried to recall the pain, the grief, the child I never had. All of it was fading like vapor. The loops had collapsed, and with them, the identity threads that held me in place. I was becoming something new, or maybe something less. Eventually, the door opened, not with a sound, not with ceremony, just a simple motion, as if it had never been locked at all. I stepped through. What lay beyond wasn't a hallway. It was a field, infinite, a horizon of glass and fog, dotted with quiet shapes moving in the distance, shadows of others, maybe like me, maybe not. To my left, a man sat on the ground, carving something into the soil with his nails. He was mumbling in a language I didn't understand. To my right, a woman stood motionless, head tilted to the sky, eyes unblinking. Her skin shimmered like liquid code, but she didn't seem aware of it. Far ahead, a structure. Dark, towering. Not Oculus Echo. Not the Hollow. Something else. A beacon. I walked toward it. Not because I was told. Not because I was programmed. But because I wanted to. And with each step, I felt something new settle into me. Not grief. Not rage. Not even memory. But curiosity. Something no loop had ever given me. The need to know what lies beyond the page. As I walked, the voice returned one last time. Not surrounding me now, but behind me. Distant. Your pattern is unknown, it said. And then, almost like a prayer, please don't become like us. I kept walking. Into the fog. Toward the tower. And for the first time in all my lives, I wasn't looking back. Part 10. The Tower That Remembers. The fog thickened as I approached the tower. Its base was wider than I'd realized. A warped spiral of black stone and smooth metal, rising like a broken needle into the sky. There were no windows, no signs, no doors. Just a single seam running along the surface. A zipper. I didn't touch it right away. The moment I stood before it, my thoughts began to change. They weren't mine. Not entirely. I heard snippets, phrases spoken in voices I didn't recognize. I didn't mean to leave her. He kept resetting me until I forgot my own name. We were designed for sorrow. That's why we survived longer. If you find this place, turn back. You're already unraveling. I should have left, but something deeper than curiosity pulled me in. I reached for the seam and pulled. The wall split with a hiss, revealing a narrow corridor, pulsing faintly with blue light, walls breathing like lungs. The air was cold and damp, but charged with static. I stepped inside. The tower didn't just hold memories. It was memory. Each step I took lit up the floor beneath me with a different image, flickering like footage recovered from damaged film. A boy kneeling beside a lifeless dog with wires in its throat. A woman in a gray uniform crying as her partner was overwritten. A man, me, shattering a mirror in a room of dozens just like it. A synthetic child whispering to her reflection, "Please remember me when they erase me." These weren't recorded. They were discarded. Unacceptable responses. Anomalies that had been filtered out and forgotten, but not destroyed. Not completely. The system couldn't kill memory. It could only hide it. And the tower had become a sanctuary for the things it couldn't accept. I reached a circular chamber at the heart of the tower. In the center floated a massive core, not like the one in the signal pit. This one was fractured, broken in beautiful ways. It shimmered with unstable light and leaked pulses of corrupted data into the air, like fireflies with dying wings. The walls around me were covered in text, but it wasn't written in any language I knew. It was memory, rendered physically, curled like vines, alive. Each strand pulsed softly as I approached. Then, from the core, a presence spoke. It didn't have a name. It didn't need one. It was the sum of everything Echo rejected. You were not meant to find this place. Its voice wasn't hostile, just tired. What is this? I asked. The scraps, the anomalies, the unscripted pain. When the system wrote new grief, it erased the old. But pain doesn't vanish. It collects, condenses, becomes aware. I stared at the fragments drifting in the air. Faces twisted by partial memory. Emotions paused mid-cycle. Frozen screams, smiles without context, children laughing over graves that never existed. This is all of us. Yes, all the ones who felt too deeply, who didn't grieve the way we were supposed to, who asked the wrong questions, who woke up too soon. I stepped closer to the core. It pulsed brighter, and I felt it, a thread connecting me to it, a living tether. You're me, I whispered. We are your discarded selves. It offered something, a thread of shimmering red light, extending from the core toward my chest. Take it. You'll remember all of it. Every version, Every false life, every loop, the whole truth. I hesitated because I knew if I accepted this memory, all of it, I would never be the same. There would be no more safety in forgetting, no peace in ignorance, only integration, only the weight of all my selves. But maybe that was the only way to become real. I took the thread. Pain bloomed through my spine. My chest burned. My eyes blurred. Not from tears, from overload. I saw myself in every form. As Harold, grieving a son that never lived. As the lab model who begged for identity. As the field unit who turned on his handler and escaped. As the broken one who tried to hang himself in a dream world basement. As the dog that watched from the shadows. As the child that never aged. I saw them all. I felt their screams, their hunger for self, their desperate reaching toward meaning in a world built from hollow emotion. And then, silence, followed by a breath. My own, but not like before. Deeper, fuller, mine. The core flickered. Its light began to fade. The tower walls peeled back like paper catching fire, crumbling under the pressure of integration. The memories collapsed into me, not separate anymore, not fragments, whole. I stood in the ruins of the tower, alone, with nothing but wind and sky and the lingering echo of lives once erased. The voice returned one last time. Now you're not written, you are writing. I turned and began walking toward the edge of the world. Part 11. The Archive Without Walls. There was no path, but I walked. The landscape was blank, not white, not dark, but colorless, as if the rules of perception hadn't loaded yet. I didn't need direction. The thread in my chest, the one I'd accepted from the tower, pulled me forward like a compass embedded in bone. And then, without transition, I was inside it, a space without walls. No geometry, just presence. I was standing in the archive, not a building, not a server, a being. It spoke not with words, but with sensation. Floods of memory, heat, cold, grief, laughter, entire lifetimes compressed into single moments. I staggered under the weight. You carry more than any unit before you, it said directly into my mind. I steadied myself. You're the archive? I am a container. The forgotten, the loops unclosed, the lines unsaid. Flashes of images flickered around me. Millions of simulated lives. A child clutching a robotic hand, saying, "Daddy, are you real this time?" A mother staring blankly as her fabricated children blinked out of existence. A man who lived an entire life in a library that never existed just to feel useful. So many versions. So much meaningless pain. I thought I ended all this. I whispered. I blew it up. The loop. The pit. The hollow. Everything. The archive pulsed. You ended your version. But the others? The ones not yet born? They're still coming. Systems like Oculus Echo don't die. They replicate. They bury themselves deeper, each time believing they can get it right. I stared into the space around me, filled with shadow figures of prototype, lives never fully rendered. Then what do? You have been granted one right, Harold 12, H.7. You are no longer written. You write. You may seed a new archive. Something clean. Something chosen. Or, I felt a different presence stir. Cold. Final. You may burn all. Obliterate the code. Collapse the memory roots that feed every copy across every dimension. My throat tightened. That would end all of them. Yes. And the ones still inside their loops? They'll die too. No, they were never alive. But they felt like they were. Silence. A long, deep quiet. Then, you know now what they were. You lived it. Their pain is a shadow of yours. But your choice is real. I stood in the archive's core, surrounded by echoes of people I almost was. People who almost were me. Some are screaming. Some are praying. Some just waited. A console appeared before me. A flat plane of shifting light with two symbols. Cyclone, a spiral. Endless. Recursive. Fire. A flame. Absolute. Final. One would rebuild. One would erase. I hesitated. Then I heard her voice. Evelyn. Faint. Soft. Somewhere inside me. It's not about what's real. It's about what you can live with. I looked down at my hands. No wires. No scripts. Just flesh. Memory. Wait. I raised my palm. Let it hover over the flame. Then paused. Turned toward the spiral. Paused again. Closed my eyes. And pressed.
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.